Hi, this is my response to the week one discussion board. Specifically, the question stating what support could you use to help EL learners. That's the first part question. I think the biggest thing is provided by the videos and instructions given. It depends on the student themselves. For instance, some of the students demonstrated in the videos, it stated how audio service technology such as text-to-speech can help students verbally practice their writing skills. It's a slightly different approach to just physically writing, but it gives them, as stated in the video, a little bit of confidence to practice their vocal, but then also drive them into wanting to write physically what they're thinking about. Other ones are such as extra devices, such as devices that read out loud to them, or closed captioning, depending on what type of subject matter they're learning or what services they need. I do think it's important to remember that each student needs different types of services, and what might work for one student might not work for another. So a student that uses a laptop, for instance, to hear what the story is being said and demonstrated might not work for another. What I mean by that is that taking into consideration a child with an IEP with a visual learning disability, hearing it might be easier or might not be easier. Providing visual hard copy representations of what the teacher is demonstrating or what they're trying to learn might support the student better. When it comes to how to be implemented into 504s and IEPs, once again, it depends on the child and what the child's accommodations or needs may be. So if it's a child who is blind, the child might need, et cetera, which is like a braille keyboard, for instance. That's just something to consider. When it comes to EL students, at least from my experience, it can be something as little as providing an extra copy of the work with a little more detail in it, maybe providing them extra time. Not necessarily the technology part of it, it's more about the needs of the student themselves. So providing, maybe having to only write 5 sentences versus writing 8 sentences or 9 sentences allows the student to feel a little more confident about where they're at, and gives them better practice time to know the skills that they already have to further improve the skills that they need to work on. And so that's my biggest thing. One thing that I will say is that a lot of the videos stated about the importance of data, and although I do agree with that, and that's great and all, I think I've stated this in my other cohorts and classes as well, is a lot of times the data doesn't really represent what the child's progress has been, because unlike everything else, the teacher is the one who's there with them in the classroom every day and can progressively see how the child has made positive or negative progress in their work or their knowledge of the subject matter. And so sometimes data can be a little flawed in that aspect, in that maybe the child has learned steps 1 and 2, but still have a ways to go to learn steps 3 and 4. However, the consideration that the child started at step 1, the child has now moved up 2 steps. And so a lot of the times the data doesn't collect that. It only reads what the child has learned and what it hasn't learned. And I think it's important to bring that up. And so that's just my last part of it, is that yes, data is important, but also take into consideration what the teacher's feedback is and what they've noticed in the classroom or in the student's work is also vital to helping the student's confidence and helping them support their strengths and how to further their themes that they might have a harder time with. So it's just something to consider.